those secret Epstein grand jury transcripts? Yeah, we're going to see them after all. That's according to this surprising order that just came down from a federal court judge in the Southern District of Florida. So let me explain what's going on and hang with me here because this gets a little complicated. First of all, it's very uncommon for grand jury transcripts to be released publicly. Those are usually kept secret because of the court's rules and because of protective orders. But according to this federal judge's order today, because President Trump signed that bill into law last month that requires the federal government to release all the Epstein files publicly, this judge said that new law overrides the court's protective orders and rules. So the grand jury transcripts can be released, minus, of course, the victims' names. So what are we going to see? Well, first you have to understand that Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex trafficker, was investigated twice for these types of sex crimes. Once in Palm Beach back in 2005, 2006, and then again in New York in 2019. The grand jury transcripts that will be released as a result of the judge's order today are from that Palm Beach case. Of course, if the federal prosecutors would have actually taken Epstein to trial, they may have been able to put him behind bars for more than a decade. But instead, Epstein was allowed to continue to traffic young girls for like another decade. So let's talk about this Palm Beach case because it was the original one against Epstein, and there was a lot of weird stuff that happened or didn't happen back then. The thing is, in 2006, a Palm Beach County grand jury indicted Jeffrey Epstein on a state charge of solicitation of prostitution, which is a state felony. But because the local police in Palm Beach said, we've got young girls coming out of the woodwork talking about how Epstein had abused them, and those local police said their investigation showed that Epstein's crimes were much, much bigger than a measly state felony charge, which is all the state attorney was willing to bring against him. The Palm Beach police, who were not happy with the way the state attorney handled the case, turned everything over to the FBI, and the feds got involved. Well, just a year later, by May of 2007, after a thorough federal investigation and the discovery of even more victims, an assistant U.S. attorney in Florida drafted a 60-count federal indictment against Jeffrey Epstein for several sex crimes that, if convicted, would have landed him in prison for more than 15 years. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida used grand juries during their investigation, but those grand juries never indicted Epstein. Why? Because in July of 2007, so just a few months after that draft indictment was written by that assistant U.S. attorney, her boss, Alex Acosta, who would later become President Trump's labor secretary during his first term, decided to just throw out that 60-count indictment and instead cut a sweetheart deal with Epstein. So when we get a hold of these grand jury transcripts, it will be very, very interesting to see exactly what federal prosecutors presented to the grand jury, and more importantly, what did Alex Acosta know that his investigators had as credible evidence against Epstein before Acosta decided to throw everything out and cut that deal? Now, this isn't the end. The U.S. government has also asked 2 different federal judges in New York, as a result of the same Epstein Transparency Act, to release those grand jury transcripts into the 2019 investigation, too. Before that law was passed, these New York judges said, no, we're not going to release the transcripts. But now that the law has passed, and now that the federal judge in Florida has said it's okay to release grand jury testimony, will these New York judges feel the same about their grand jury testimony? We are expecting rulings from those 2 New York judges sometime next week. And then we are going to get to see the full Epstein files no later than December 19th.